But just as important as creating jobs and rebuilding communities, our priorities will also protect the rights of Ohioans. We will be developing an Ohio Voters' Bill of Rights. This legislation will protect against efforts to make it harder for Ohioans to exercise their right to vote by asserting that ballots are valid unless proven fraudulent. It will help restore the common sense that Republicans have tried to strip out of our elections laws. For example, when information is missing from paperwork, we will not assume that voters made the error or willfully violated the law unless we have good reason to. We will not treat simple human error as a fatal flaw in counting one's votes. We know from elections officials that when there is an error, 99% of the time, it is not the voter's fault or intentional. We will not punish all voters because of this mythical, stubborn voter who purposely violates the law. We will also fight for measures that improve participation, not discourage it. And we will seek ways to better comply with federal motor voter law. In addition to voters' rights, we are also working on legislation to protect workers' rights. We are pushing several workers' rights initiatives. These include several legislative proposals that will protect the rights of Ohio workers by ending discrimination against unemployed workers, developing a work-share program to avoid layoffs, and ending employer fraud through the misclassification of employees. We will also be seeking action on legislation that will protect women's rights. We are pushing for legislation to shield the home address from public records to protect victims of domestic violence, and protecting victims of human trafficking will continue to be our priority. Lastly, we will be developing several proposals to protect consumers' rights. Legislative priorities will include creating a health insurance exchange and developing new laws that give patients greater protection against rate increases and claim denials. And now Representative Phillips will discuss opportunities.
Thank you. Working and middle-class families deserve a fair opportunity to succeed. This is why a strong public education system is so important. It's also why robust workforce training options are needed. In addition to slashing funding for Ohio schools, House Republicans have launched an all-out assault on public education in Ohio. The unlimited expansion of vouchers and other measures that divert public dollars away from public schools and into the hands of private, for-profit school operators should be of concern to all Ohioans. That is why we are introducing the Public Education Protection Act. This legislation will provide greater oversight and transparency of public dollars that go to private, for-profit charter schools and will reduce the amount of public money going to failing charter schools. It will also strengthen reporting requirements and penalties for poor performing schools that are profiting from taxpayer funding. And it will minimize abuse of taxpayer funds for vouchers to non-public schools by setting appropriate program parameters and limits. Just as important as protecting education is workforce training. That's why we are developing the Ohioans Back to Work program. This is based on Florida's Quick Response Training Program. This legislation would expand the Ohio Workforce Guarantee and align it with Jobs Ohio to create an employer-driven workforce training program. Now I'd like to hand it back to Leader Budish for some concluding remarks.